Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 2nd City Council meeting. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Alderman Santee.
Here.
Alderman Glad.
Here.
Alderman McClatchy.
Here.
Alderman Harding.
Here.
Alderman Schreck.
Here.
Alderman Devine.
Here.
Alderwoman Miller is absent.
Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I see there's no public comment. Is that correct? Anyone would like to make a public comment? No? Okay. Consent agendas items 5A through 5N. Is there any council members wanting to pull any items for separate consideration? Looking for a motion to approve 5A through 5N. Alderman Strack?
As presented.
Thank you. Second? Alderman McClatchy?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Discussion on any of these items? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Schreck.
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy.
Yes.
Alderman Glad.
Yes.
Alderman Santee.
Yes.
Alderman Harding.
Yes.
Alderman Devine.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Next item on the agenda is 6A is a motion to approve a video gaming license for Margaritas Restaurant Bar located at 2314 West Illinois Route 120. I am looking for a motion and a second to approve. Alderman Santee?
I will make the motion to approve Margarita Bar as presented.
Thank you. Second? Alderman McClatchy?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Discussion on this item.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
So they've already been approved for alcohol at the time of all our others for the annual.
Right, so they received their original liquor license in October of last year, and were just renewed as part of their renewal. But they didn't ask for video gaming at the time that they opened up.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Santee.
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy.
Yes.
Alderman Glad.
Yes.
Alderman Harding.
Yes.
Alderman Schreck.
Yes.
Alderman Devine.
Yes.
Next item is 6B, motion to approve an ordinance amending the fiscal year 22-23 developer donation budget in the amount of $125,000 for costs related to the installation of the splash pad at Whispering Oaks Park. Director Hobson, can we go ahead and present this?
Sure, this is one I'm definitely excited to be before you presenting the final details of. The fact that I have to ask for a change, I just want to apologize. I think it's a sign of the times right now with, we initially proposed this back in 2019, which is hard to believe. And in that time, obviously all of our costs have gone through the roof. Despite the fact we're getting a significant amount of donations, primarily from the Rise Up Foundation for $200,000, which the city has received already. That will cover the installation of the pad itself, as well as the equipment for the splash pad. But we need to bring utilities to the site. And there'll be some incidentals, like a fence around the project, as well as probably a couple small things in relation to the parking lot. To date, we have somebody that's donated material for the parking lot, as well as all the excavation for the parking lot. We're fairly confident that we'll have somebody to lay down that material as well, so the parking lot could be a donation in its entirety, which is exciting for that project. But our timeline for this one will be estimated at June 1st is when the equipment is scheduled to arrive, and hopefully a ribbon cutting or an opening for that park, for that aspect of the park on July 1st.
Thank you, Bill. I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve. Alderman Santee?
I'd like to make sure the council hears me out on this. I'll make a motion to approve this amendment for the year 23-24 and seeking money, donation money, or hopefully from Rise this year, if they're willing to contribute that way, for donation to move it forward to next year to be built at that time, when there's no cost extras, for example, of this $125,000. The reason I'm asking it this way is because, and I totally understand where Director Hobson's coming from, it was 2019, and and the numbers are definitely different. My concern is that we went into this very large positive response from constituents, from people here that are ready for this splash park. I understand this would hold it off for a given period of time, but my point is that we went into it as a 100% donation through this foundation to get this completed. And that's why I'm making the motion to move it back by a year. And actually, I know this will develop some discussion here on it. I do understand, and probably someone else is gonna have to explain it better, in regards to parking money for this. There may be some donations coming in from parking already, what Director Hobson had stated earlier, but I don't know those numbers. And I don't know how much it costs for a parking lot. So I'm asking just to move it back and to be totally 100% donation funded. And that way we can do it next year, granted that the Rise Foundation is moving forward with their concert this year.
No, it's a combination of a motion and an explanation.
I know, I put it all in one. The motion basically was to move this into next year to get 100% donations, to have this 125 placed into, be brought in by donations for next year when we have time for it, through the next Rise Foundation concert.
Did you understand that motion?
Are you looking to table the motion? I mean, there's.
Can you just decline it, like just vote no?
That's
Yeah.
Not a
Well, first of all, there has to be a second, but
Yeah,
if
there's
right.
if everyone understands
That's
the
what I'm saying.
motion, then
Yeah.
is there a second? I guess is the issue.
Alderman Gleb?
Second.
Third? All right, so the motion on the floor is to, not move this project forward in this year, and move it to next year.
Next year.
After the funding is available from Rise Up Foundation.
Or whoever.
Or other donations, okay.
Question.
Yeah.
The concert that's coming up, is that money already earmarked for anything?
It was, gonna be used for the tiny shops at Miller Point. So Miller Point, improvements, Miller Point, and Bill can kind of.
Yeah, the tiny shops initiative is what the conversations that have been had so far, all that money was earmarked for that, economic development initiative on Miller Point. The other, really for the installation of the tiny shops itself. There's 10 shops in all, 5 12 by 12, 5 12 by 16. There's been significant discussions with the chamber in terms of putting together the working operations for that. So that was, all of this year's money is for the concert at this point is accounted for in the development of that site, including the possibility of adding restrooms on the site to accommodate that economic development initiative. I will say, in terms of, the use of parks developer donations, I certainly understand your hesitation, but that's exactly what the fund is for, to increase recreational opportunities for our community. And so, that's where this money will be coming from.
Okay. Go ahead, that's what I'm saying.
No, very, very good point by Director Hobson. And then I just to even follow up and go further in, is that there may be something in your budget that you're looking at that now, because we're gonna put the money to this, that you're not gonna be able to fund, and you have to possibly pull off of something that you were looking at potentially doing out of your department, something else, something totally differently, but that is money that, and you made the decision, I understand it, that you're taking it and going to this, but it is, when you look at it in your budget, you're gonna have to say that 127 or 125 is not able to go into something else with fields, with equipment, with whatever. So it is, you know, it is kind of, it's definitely doing a draw on your budget that you probably weren't prepared to do, you know, 6 months ago.
I would say and that's fair, and I would anticipate there was always gonna be some costs that we were going to have to cover. With a project like this, there's always those unknowns. I will also say that there's no guarantee that donation money ever comes back to us. A $200,000 cash check that we've already received is beyond generous. As well as the in-kind, the parking lot. You know, that parking lot expansion itself is probably, you know, $200,000 project. And so to have $400,000 for us to contribute, you know, $100,000 to that, the 1/5 of what this overall project is, makes a great deal of sense to me, and it's one that our community, in 2017, when we did our community needs assessment, they're looking for that free, it's a free amenity, it's nothing that we're charged. You can take your kids out there in a safe spot that's fenced in, next to our most popular playground. So the pairing of these two elements, as well as where that ranked in our needs assessment, really made this one that I don't see a reason that we shouldn't be pushing this forward right now, especially we don't know if that money's spoken for. The Rise Up Foundation money is already spoken for towards this other initiative, so that means we're pushing it about 2 years.
What's the balance in the developer donation fees for parks?
It's just over 1.5 million.
Alderman Glab.
Yeah, from what I recall, when we first brought up the splash pad idea years back, there was a lot of people, just like now, that wanted to see it, hungry for it, but there was an outcry also that they didn't want to see the city pay for it. And I think that kind of echoes what Alderman Santi is saying. This was supposed to be a project due to what the community was saying, that this would be totally, and it was presented to us that it would be totally funded by donations from the Rise Foundation and others. I know Rise last year had a fantastic draw, brought in well over $500,000, but it was sad to see that only $200,000 was given for the splash pad, and just kind of wonder, I mean, is there other money in Rise that can be donated there, considering the amount of money that was brought in last year?
I feel like it's our project and we should have some skin in the game.
Like I said, it was well over $500,000. It was almost $500,000 just for the tickets, plus the liquor and everything else.
It was also $500,000 of my personal money that I out there to put it on, so. Sorry, let's go ahead, vote. Clerk, please call the roll.
What's the final, what do we,
Yeah, so,
Deny, push 20, push the.
have to build it?
so is the
Just wanna
vote
make
to, push, is the motion now changed to push it to the following year, or are we
Yeah.
still, okay.
That's small.
So Alderman Santi?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy?
No.
Alderman Harding?
No.
Alderman Stratt?
No.
Alderman Devine?
No.
Thank you, council. Now I'm looking for a motion to approve, 6B, motion to approve an ordinance amending the fiscal year 22-23 developer donation budget in the amount of $125,000 of costs related to the installation of the splash pad at Whispering Oaks Park. Alderman Harding?
I'll make that motion as presented.
Thank you. Second? Alderman Stratt?
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion? Alderman Glab?
Yeah, I just want to bring up the fact that, you know, we've got some nice renditions of the expansion of the water park, but nothing about the expansion of the parking lot, and that was my main concern more so than anything else, is the fact that we're bringing in more people, where we are over inundated on nice days with nice weather. How do we build this without a parking lot? Number one, I'm more concerned about the safety of the children out there. We don't restrict parking on Royal. Kids could be running in and out in between those cars. there should be at least twice the parking we have right now, just with the amount of use of that park, as it stands today. When it's really, really nice out there, there's droves of people that come out there. And I just can't believe that we're going to wind up using city money when the community cried out a couple years back that no, they didn't want to see this project, you know, the city spending the money on this project. But here we are now with a motion to do that.
It's on page 170.
There is a rendition of the parking lot expansion in the supplement, and it adds approximately.
That's
4
not enough
spaces.
parking.
Doubles the lot.
Well, like I said, that takes care of the problems that we have right now. What about the splash pad that we're adding to it? And when is this going to be installed versus the splash pad?
Concurrently.
I'm sorry?
Our goal is to have it installed.
They will be
concurrently, so
concurrent.
when we're ready to open with the splash pad, this parking lot will be in.
I'm meeting with the paving contractor in the next couple days.
Correct.
I've got the stone donated, and got the
Asphalt.
asphalt donated by another company, and got the excavation done by another company.
Well, I'd feel more comfortable if that motion was the fact that the parking lot was concurrent at the same time as the splash pad, because I'd like to see that parking in there first, or at least at the same time.
Ms. Hanson?
Yeah, per discussion prior to the meeting, and Director Hobson, and anyone else that can confirm. So, the new parking lot is actually, is the total build out of the parking lot donation?
Yes.
Okay, so
Let me amend that.
Yeah, okay.
There could be some incidentals that we run into. Right now, we have all the material, the hot asphalt mix donated. We have all the gravel donated for the base. We have, all the excavation for the entire parking lot donated.
Okay.
And so if there's some incidentals in terms of curb work, or maybe a
Striping.
catch basin or striping,
Maybe, yeah.
some incidentals that come along with that parking lot, again, there might be something that we have to pick up, and I think that's fair, and that's some monies that I included in that overage that I'm asking for.
And the total amount of new spaces will be
I counted exactly 37.
37 on that, okay, I know that. Okay, and can, I don't know, Director Strange, or any 37, 38 spaces, normally a parking lot like that built from nothing is, any idea what the
Well,
amount might
we're
be,
doing
something like that?
the expansion of South Riverside Drive, I think we're, what are we, 295?
235 is the one.
235. That's not this many spaces, I think that's adding 25 spaces. So, but most recent bid that we've opened in terms of parking, 25 spaces, $235,000.
So when you look at the overall picture, then you can say that, yes, I see the 125 coming out of park donation fee, but then now with this, with looking at this, that we probably have a parking lot that is somewhere in that general area that is donated. And when you look at the numbers totally, it could be a wash, or we could find out that, not actual money, but numbers, we would be ahead just by what's happening with this parking lot and how we're getting that done. Which, once again, is something that, hey, has come to the table late, fantastic, I applaud that, and I'm comfortable moving forward. So, you know, I wanted to make sure that everything was out there and understood, because, once again, just back in 2019, you know, it's total donation, and yeah, I mean, we sometimes, you know, some things have to change, or some things are adjusted on the fly. We are looking at something that's 2, 3 years out, and you know, understanding that information, I appreciate it. I thank everybody for looking into this, and I have no further questions. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Alderman Devine?
I think one thing we have to remember is, the 5 years I've been on council, we've done a lot for downtown. We've done a lot for entertainment, restaurants, food. What have we really done for young families? and this is something that people are looking forward to. People talk about it all the time. It's gonna be a total positive for McKinley.
Any other questions, comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Harding,
Yes.
Alderman Stratt,
Yes.
Alderman Devine,
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy.
Yes.
Alderman Glad,
No.
Alderman Santi,
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to 7A is discussion item, All Marine Retro Rentals Liquor License, discussion regarding potential to amend, expand our existing Class G liquor license.
We may need Monty's help with this one too, Monty.
Thank you, Mayor. So I wanted to bring this before you as a discussion item because of some discussions I've had with Dylan and Michelle in terms of some events they'd like to do this summer. One of the things, I think we're all pretty familiar with the whiskey tasting event that occurs at the Chambers as part of Fiesta Days, where they basically have the tastings and you can purchase the alcohol, but they have the tastings that you can do there on Thursday night. That's something that Dylan and Michelle are interested in adding as in their event, I guess scheduled for the summer, like first Fridays, where they would have pick one Friday, the first Friday of every month, and they would do tastings, and it could be a tequila or it could be a wine on that particular night. It would be contained within their footprint. However, their current liquor license doesn't allow for that, which is kind of what started the discussion. The irony in this is that their state liquor license, which they hold, is a full liquor license, so they're having. The city liquor license is much more restrictive. Obviously, it's prepackaged, but it's also location as well as time for their liquor license, so it's those elements. I think the long-term goal, and I won't speak for them as they're here, and they can, I will speak for them a little bit, but if they want to step up and add to that, the overall goal would be to have that full liquor license for the city, not changing the time or location, obviously. And I think it's important to note that their goal is not to be a full bar, but to be able to do some of those specialty drinks. Is it a specialty type cocktail a signature type cocktail that they want to do? Or, again, to allow these type of tasting events that we can put a cap on and say, all right, with the approval of city administrator or director of parks, you can do up to 5 tastings a year, all from May through September. So I wanted to bring it forward as a discussion item just to see what thoughts are. It certainly has evolved a little bit, and it will continue to evolve as we add the tiny shops down there, and we transform the park. As we're working towards that. So I wanted to bring that to council as a discussion item, just to hear what some thoughts are. And maybe, if Dylan or Michelle would like to add anything to that, they could step up to the podium and comment, or if council would like to ask them questions directly, I think this is a good opportunity.
I think I can add to this. I don't usually add much, but sometimes they, So when they came in originally, and maybe even their predecessor, it was their request to have the liquor license they have. It wasn't our restriction, if I remember right. I think we had a restriction on the time and the location.
Time and the location.
But I don't think it was our preference, just to give you some flavor for that.
Well, that's why we ended up creating its own license just for that location.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Right.
That's what it was. Right.
So, Michelle, would you like to add anything, or Dylan, would you like to add anything to, hopefully I hit it on the head from our discussion.
You can step up.
Do we have to step up?
Yes, please.
You did a great job, Bill, and thank you for hearing us out on this. The business evolves, and as the more we're in business, the more we're learning what the community would like and what they request, and we'd really like to offer some fun events. We had a great time participating in Shamrock's the Fox, and that allowed us to do some specialty drinks. Everyone loved it. It was really fun, and under our current license, we just don't have that ability. So I know when we first started, it was let's start here and see how it goes, and I hope that we've proven it's gone well. Sometimes people will come up and they'll want a certain beverage or something different, and we just don't have that to offer. So
Yeah, a lot of times we get that.
And there are certain wines that just aren't as good from cans, but it's okay. So, we would just like to participate as much as we can in some events, and like Bill said, that specialty cocktail, just have something that makes us
Sets us
unique.
apart. Even on the, when they do the, that water, yeah.
The Damien Challenge?
No, when they do the Bloody Mary thing, where they go around, Moretti's,
Oh, yeah.
we can't, because we
Oh, yeah.
can't.
We couldn't
We can't make a
participate in that.
signature Bloody
I didn't
Mary,
know
we can
about
only
that.
pour one out of the can.
Right.
Things like that.
The good.
Yeah, that's a good one. Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Yeah. You guys done a really good job down there so far. I mean, people talk about it all the time. My question is, how many events do you think you're gonna have?
So, what Bill had mentioned, I was looking at hosting some First Fridays where we could do some tasting, something as sort of a pre-dinner event, you know, get people down there, have maybe some acoustic music, do a tasting, and then we close as we kind of usher people down the Riverwalk. So maybe that would be a nice way as kind of a end of the day event for people to come out on a Friday.
So you're talking every Friday?
No, that would be like the first Friday of the month.
First Friday of the
And then, any other maybe specialty events. You know, eventually we'd like to have some sort of, cocktail, whether it be, something as simple as the kind of frozen,
Daiquiri.
right, something like that I can stick a little umbrella in and make it very fun and festive, you know, something a little more beachy. So.
I wanted to clarify or add some additional information, like, it's the original request that came in was for some, like, 4 or 5 specific dates that they wanted to have something, and so internally, we had a discussion, and Chief Burke was a part of that, about, we only offer special use permits or special liquor licenses for not-for-profits, so they're not eligible for that, from the city of McHenry, so what could we do, or what could they do with their existing Class G to be able to allow them to offer something other than beer and wine? And that's why we brought it forth as a discussion item. And there's a couple of ways to deal with it. I mean, you could go down the path of identifying a specific number of events, during the year, subject to, as Bill said, or we just amend the Class G liquor license. It's still specific to this location, and the hours are still set. And just expand it to allow full service or liquor in addition to beer and wine, and allow them to make the decisions on when they want to offer those drinks, how often, or what drinks they want to offer. And obviously, we're going to monitor it. And if this was a first-year business or whatever, it would be one thing, as a different location or an oddity. But again, I think they've proven themselves there as a responsible business operator, on city property during this time. So. Again, a couple of ways to deal with it, but I know that Chief Burke identified, even though he's not here tonight, I know that he's in favor of expanding to a full liquor license, as we would be also, if that's the way council wanted to go.
I think the other thing that he wanted me to add, and I did speak to him, was that the only items that would be able to take off-site, like when there are the boat rentals, will be the prepackaged.
Right.
If they couldn't get a drink or whatever the specialty cocktail, or if it was one of these events, they couldn't take that cocktail and then go on to the boat with it. The license does allow for the prepackaged to be taken off-site onto the boat rental, but not the intention is to keep it as that and not the specialty cocktails off of their footprint.
Alderman Santi?
I think this is to Attorney McCardle, what you stated early in this discussion. This could be a full liquor license under that unique class of whatever it is, G, and then we make this special event maximum number or something, or because
Yeah, you have a lot of leeway here.
Because we already have a time frame that they've agreed to.
Doug, does our liquor license have restrictions with regard, I don't know I've never been on there. You have a building, or you have a tent, what do you operate out of?
Shipping, it's a modified shipping containers.
Modified what?
Shipping. Not chicken
Chicken.
Shipping.
So we don't have any structure restriction in our liquor license. It doesn't matter whether you have a building or not, you can still get a liquor license, right?
We need an address.
You need an address?
Right, Monty? Yeah. you need to have an address.
Okay.
Again, we created this license.
Yeah, that's why I was asking whether we can just jump to a full
Okay,
liquor
okay.
license when it doesn't have a,
Got it.
I thought a building, but an address. Do you have an address?
Yeah, we have an address.
Is it mail?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so you have lots of flexibility, home rule, of course. You could put any kind of restriction you want on this liquor license.
Okay, and then.
Or take the one you have and modify it.
Yeah.
Either way.
Let's,
You
okay.
can go up with the one you have or down with the full liquor.
And on these Friday nights, what's the time, do we have a time frame, a tentative time frame of what we're doing this tasting?
Keep the time frame the same. We're not looking to modify the
Okay.
time frame.
Which is what now, though?
4 to 7:30.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm comfortable doing something like that and having, we talked about the first Fridays for 4 months, we could say, go to a max of, I'd be comfortable with 4 or 5, see how it goes this year, and then, the special event license, they have to come back and ask for dates next year, see how it goes. And see what if it works out for you. And those are pretty much, when you do those events, like if it's a bourbon night or a wine, they're sponsored by the provider distributors, correct? They do some sponsorship
Yeah.
help for you. Okay. So, thank you. That's all.
Any other questions, comments by council? Alderman Strack?
So I think my perspective is probably different. Director Hobson and I have had some conversations about the next discussion item and how that plays into that park. I am 100 in support of Michelle and Dylan's project down there and the way that's laid out. I am concerned about the fact that you go to a full liquor license and it changes the dynamic of the draw to the park and how that plays. I'm not 100% against it, but I think limiting that to something different than all the time would be something I would certainly discuss, but I do think that we have a lot of brick and mortar locations that have spent a lot of money to do this type of an event in a facility, whether that be downtown or in our town, and I think we have to be cognizant of those people as well. So that's where I stand on it. Again, I'm not saying I'm against it, but I think it's a delicate road. Thank you.
So it sounds like, I'm sorry, but it sounds like you would like to keep it as almost like a licensed G, but a special, there'd have to be some limits, and they'd have to come to us every year.
For sure.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Alderman Ryan?
I agree with Alderman Strack about this. We have to, I think we should leave it the way it is. We still have to remember it's a city park, and for everybody in this community to go there with, I'm just not comfortable with the full service bar here.
Are you comfortable, from a council's perspective, are we comfortable with a certain amount of events? Or, so, we're to 4 to 6 events that they would be able to have these, or not even that? I think that's
I'm in favor of that, Phil. 4 to 6 events, you got your hours set, and I'm in favor of that.
And
See how it goes, and then come back next year.
If I could just ask a question. So, and I think there's 2 pieces to that too. Like, we're talking about having some sort of specialty. I understand what you're saying about the full bar. We are not trying to change the dynamic or the draw, or, this is still very much for during the day, getting to dusk, and then people can move along. But thinking about the idea of something that can be a signature drink or something that kind of sets us apart, because we are very limited with just canned prepackaged beverages. So just to kind of think about that in relation to all of the other options on the water. We just want to be included in events and be able to offer people something fun. So I hear what you're saying.
Well, then maybe what we should do is come up with, take the existing licenses, since you're the only one with that class apparently.
Yes.
That we created, maybe we should modify that in conjunction with the comments that were made, and come back with an amendment to that license, rather than go to a Class A and try and restrict it.
No, and that's exactly the intention, is to modify
Well,
that
we're gonna
G
need
license.
some, I know you're
meeting.
kind of feeling your way around here into the future summer and all that, but you need to give us some specifics about And we can modify it as the summer goes along. If you see an event that we missed or something like that because you couldn't forecast it, you
Right.
can come back, but really you need to give us a blueprint of how that permit should read.
Well, they just want, you just wanna know the number of events.
And
Their original
they'll
request,
likely
What's
rent
an event?
their original request was for 5 dates for the city, 5 specific dates.
Okay, well, do you even know what those are?
Yeah, we have those
Yeah.
dates
Yeah.
currently, yeah.
Well, if you're ready to do it, I mean, we can, if you can verbalize it, we can do it now. But it would be an amendment to that, it's an ordinance.
No, it's not.
The intention was to have a discussion and bring it back at the next meeting,
Right.
get amendments,
Right.
and people were, that we could put that together.
But you bring up a great point. Our point is, we can't forecast all the events, and we want to be prepared instead of, so like talking about Shamrocks the Fox, it was great to participate in that, but again, those events that occur, it's kind of a big hurdle to be able to participate under our current restrictions to some degree.
To know what you can do
But
and can't do.
yeah, it's very limiting. So we'd love to jump in more and do more fun things.
So-
Hands are tied a little bit.
So, I guess from a consensus point of view, what if we know they have 4 dates specifically, if we said 6 dates, total for the summer, that they would be able to have this full liquor license, is that?
But
Well,
they're
we'll
not
have to
gonna,
craft the
go
language.
buy a full bar full of stuff.
No,
six
but,
things.
but
They
they,
must have some drinking.
something outside of pre-practice is how it reads right now, and so we'd have to craft that language,
Yeah,
whatever it was,
yeah.
it's not an A, it's a G license restricted to this location during this
For these
specific time
these number of
frame
events.
for, yes.
That's what we're gonna bring back to council.
Correct.
Is an
But only
amendment
if,
to the class.
only if you're acceptable to that,
Is there
I think that's a safe spot, or safe start for us.
The majority of council in favor of that.
I'm okay with that.
Thank you, okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that, but I'm gonna follow up with Alderman Strack brought up a few minutes ago. The next item,
Mhm.
that I probably do not wanna see trucks there on Friday nights, because if we have people coming down and let them do the tasting, enjoy themselves, well, guess what? We gotta find a place to eat. I would like to have those people roam to brick and mortar, let them go about their Friday night activity. They have you can get to 8 different restaurants in less than a 5-minute walk. And exactly, hopefully they can make it within 5 minutes. Maybe it might take a few people 10, but they might have to.
Let's go back to the other item real quick.
I'm sorry.
The majority in favor of this, I mean, I think we got 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
Okay.
a max, yeah.
We'll craft the language.
Craft the
and
language, bring it
to the
back.
next meeting.
If you,
For an actual vote.
if council wants to further limit it or amend the language based on the next discussion, and when we bring it back to you, then we can do that.
Yeah, it'd be easier to do it that
Right,
way.
but
Yeah.
we know what the nature of what you guys want is, so we'll come back with that.
All right.
I think, Pat,
Thank
do you
you.
have something else?
I just had a question, are the 5 days, are they standalone dates, or are they tied on to
They're
events?
just the first Friday of every month.
Okay.
Yeah, just to do something a little different, help bring people down. Right now, we're still kind of the standalone down there, so trying to get people to come down to the River Rock and experience that, I think helps everybody. And we also just want to collaborate, and we're continuing to work on that. So we want to really offer people, we don't offer food. That's not what we do. So, we have every intention this year of having like QR codes to the local
Yeah, I think
menus
the
of
more
local
people we bring
restaurants
out, the more people get out.
are gonna go eat dinner somewhere, or.
It's good for all the restaurants.
Right, and even if, I know the food trucks are something separate. But even being able to work with a vendor, like on those Friday nights, like
Or a
Melwood
ven-
Grill.
A
or
vendor that's already
someone
independent.
right here to promote them. And we're all about cross collaboration and promotion. So being able to support our local food vendors is something we want to do, not something we're trying to take away from. So we usher everyone down the Riverwalk to dinner.
And we have reached out to quite a few that didn't wanna do anything down at the Riverwalk
Correct.
that are in Kenry.
Right.
They just said it wasn't worth their time.
Right.
So,
The first Fridays would be a new event offering that they proposed. I think another one that it could partner, and this is where I said, theoretically 6 events rather than just the 4 that they proposed, is maybe like the Light the Night, where there's a specialty something for that event, which has been extremely successful down there. Similar to, so for an example, they participated under our liquor license for Shamrock Stuff Box and had this white hot chocolates, thank God, because it was like 10 degrees that day. But it was an extremely popular item. I think that there was over $4,000 made on that. They had their costs covered, but the rest of that was profit that came back to the city as part of that event. It was just something that was well received. It's not, again, it's not anything we're looking to.
Our costs are going back to the city.
Yeah.
We are donating that back, so.
I think that, direction on that, at least to be able to craft something and bring it back, so thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night. All right, next item is regarding the food trucks at Miller Point Park. Mr. Hobson?
All right, so the food trucks, I had sent the email out, and I think there was a little bit of a mixed reaction to exactly what we do. And so if we do anything at all, I wanted to have a discussion on this level, again, of what the parameters that might work for us, because we're not, Alderman Stark, I think you brought up some great points, of, do we even want to introduce this? Is it something that's not going to be well received by our, by our business community, by our restaurants? The whole point is to get people moving around down there. And what does the food trucks do for us? Does it bring visitors to town that might have a snack and a specialty item and go someplace else? But there's a lot of people that have vested interest, that have spent a lot of money on brick and mortar. And I want to respect that, and I want to have that discussion at this level. But as a refresher, how it came about was there's the Bolo Food Truck Group that is located out of the Bolo Village City Hall. They could not come to terms with Bolo, and were looking for new homes, looking for new locations for their food truck event. What they do is they have food trucks there every day. They have a lunch crowd from 11 to 2 usually, and they have a dinner crowd from 4 to 8. How it works is there's a lady that organized all of the food trucks, and so she charges the food trucks $25 basically, and then the village charges them basically that same amount, $25. She does all the promotion and makes sure people know that they're out there. She schedules them, gets the lineup set. I don't know, like I said, as I've thought more about it and had some discussions with a number of you, if that works as well for us. Maybe we should, if we think about this at all, do we limit days that it's down there? Do we limit times that it's down there? Again, is it not worth doing at all? And is it something that we try to do ourselves? Is instead of, I think this is a project that maybe the Riverwalk Foundation could take on, or we as a staff could take on, if it's something that we're interested. But that could be a revenue source for the Riverwalk Foundation as they're looking to do this type of thing. But it has to work. And so, whether we're in or we're out, I just wanted to have a discussion as a council as a whole of what the parameters might be, or let's just kill it and we'll deal with what we have down there. I think we're definitely on the right track of where we're headed on a lot of our things, in terms of events and presence that we have, and the economic development initiative with the Riverwalk shops. We're headed in a great direction, expansion of parking, expansion of the Riverwalk. But how does this play into it, or doesn't it play into it? So that's why I put it in your hands at this point, to at least have that discussion.
Someone want to start it off? Alderman Sandy, would you like to start it off?
Did I raise my hand?
Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Someone else first.
You sure?
Yes.
How many trucks are we talking about?
I wouldn't ever do any more than 2. Maybe it's one a day. I think that's the question that I'm posing to you, is what's the right, I wouldn't ever do any more than 2, number one. I guess, well, what days would they be down there? I think it's tough to get more than that anyway. I think when they start spreading out the Bolo food trucks, I want to add, that has since opened at Round Lake Beach, which she had told me up front that that's what they were doing, but they also opened in Lakemore now as well. So there is a presence, or a competition presence. No more than 2 is the short answer to your question.
Okay, perfect. Whenever I go there, the trucks that are there, they got lines real long, so it'll be successful, I'm sure.
Alderman Hardy, go ahead.
Is it the same 2 trucks that are gonna be,
how's that rotate?
Different trucks all the time, whenever we can get different trucks, and there's a lot of food trucks, it's getting those contacts, and through our events, we probably have contacts with 10 food trucks, but as the word gets out that that's how it happened with Volvo, as the word got out, that this is what they're doing, they've been able to build up more of a roster of these food trucks. If that's something we're interested in, we would probably foster that the same way.
I'm comfortable with 2 trucks, but how about other locations within the city?
Open to that too.
Yeah, but I was thinking west side, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but maybe, obviously the splash pad or something now, or, I saw there was a food truck by B&B Auto today, but I mean, that was their own thing. So, I'm open to 2 down at that point. I understand with the brick and mortar also. I don't have the answer right now, but I'd like to see it spread throughout the city for sure. That's my take right now.
I will add that we have food trucks basically at the Pearl Street Market on Thursdays, and we have, the cruise nights are coming back this year, so they'll probably have, they typically have like MJ's that has some drinks or things that are associated with their cruise nights as well. So there is a presence of food trucks in our community. Again, that comes down to what days do we want to have it, and do we want to have it on a Thursday when it's competing with the market, or is that a day that we want to cut out?
I'm going to thank Director Hobson for his conversation with me this week. Everybody knows that this has been something that I've had a concern with. I've spoken to Alderman here. I believe that the brick and mortar gets some fair shot at having an issue with this, and I just think that I'm up for some of it. I just don't know that every day of the week, 2 trucks at lunch, 2 trucks at dinner, I think that's more than what we want to take away from the rest of that. And I also think it creates a feel in the community of what we're drawing to the community on a regular basis. Do we want to draw clientele that are going to visit our brick and mortars? And not to say that the food trucks are not reporting every dollar of tax revenue that's coming, but it's harder for us to track that, and it's harder for us to keep control of what's happening in those environments. The health department's doing their thing, but we're not able to facilitate working through those things, and that's, of course, a staff issue as well. I just think that some semblance of food trucks I'm on board with. On an everyday basis, I think is probably too much.
What days do you think it works well? Or
that's again, looking at where they've taken that group now and figuring out how to offset that on the days that they're furthest away, and how that plays out, I think, is always the tricky part. Because if they're not successful, it won't last anyway, so you've got to do it on the days that they're not being successful somewhere else.
right.
That's the hard one, knowing what that right answer is. Woodstock's probably doing the same. I mean, we've got this in lots of our neighboring communities as well, so it's just trying to find the nights that it's not somewhere else, so that they can be successful and so can we.
Right.
So, I'm gonna leave that back in your hands, Bill.
Alderman Devine?
Yeah, I can see a couple nights a week, just for a quick, pick something up and bring it home. I don't think it's gonna affect, that way it won't affect our downtown restaurants. I think if you go to a food truck, you're not going to be looking to go out anywhere else. That's kind of what let's just go, hey, there's a food truck, let's just go grab something, eat there at the park or take it home. So a couple days a week, maybe on a Saturday afternoon during the summer, but,
That was my question, is a Saturday, Sunday, the Riverwalk Foundation puts together an entire music lineup for Sunday afternoons. Is that a good pairing? Is that an acceptable pairing? Is it just a Saturday and Sunday and you leave the week alone?
another thing, point is, I don't think they'll have the turnout like Bolo has. I drive past the one at Bolo, and there's a line, but we have a lot more food options here, so I don't think we'll have that as many. Thanks.
Yeah, I guess it goes to Ross. I don't know, do they have permits?
We currently do not have a permitting or a licensing program for food trucks, but obviously they are required through the health department to be permitted.
Maybe that's something we ought to look at, so we have some kind of control on it.
Well, that's part of this
That's where it could be like through the park. Is it a special use where we, and then what, what do we charge them? Is a portion going to, is the Riverwalk Foundation setting it up and they get $25 and we get $25? Or do we basically take the 50, which is typically, $55 is typically a special use permit, within the parks. And so that's an option as well. You charge a truck $50 and it all comes to the city.
I'm not too concerned about the money. My concern is controlling it so they don't pop up like mushrooms all over the place.
And we do have a little more control with Parks and Rec, because we do have them fill, and we've had a history of them filling out special use. I think Landmark PTO has had them at Shamrock Farms Park as a fundraiser, where they have to fill an application. The Pigtail League has had them out for their part of their opening ceremonies out at Peterson Park. Again, they're charged a fee out there as well.
Okay, thanks.
Just to add to that, Alderman McClatchy, Monty actually did some research a few months back when we were looking at food trucks and how much they were showing up in town and stuff like that. We researched other communities, and a lot of communities are kind of just status quo. They're like us, where we don't see a need right yet to start enforcing food trucks. Most of what we see is on private property. You know, like the marina, they have them on Saturdays and Sundays. You know, when and where we start to regulate them, we just haven't seen the need to do so yet.
Yeah, number one, I don't think we wait until the horses are out of the barn before we close the doors. So I think we need to act on looking at some controls and ordinances ASAP actually on this. Another question I have is, Alderman McClatchy, you're the one that talks about the lines, so you must visit these places every now and then. What kind of menus do they basically have?
It's all over the place.
It's all over the place. You know, when we first talked about the Riverwalk many years ago, we talked about having some vendors along the Riverwalk, you know, with carts and things like that. You know, maybe a hot dog type cart, or you know, one of the big things, especially at our bigger events, is the funnel cakes and things like that. But you don't want to start bringing in food trucks that start serving burgers and tacos and everything that our brick and mortar sells. The whole idea of the Riverwalk was to bring and draw people into the downtown area to support our businesses and to grow our businesses in the downtown area. And, you know, bringing in food trucks is not really a great idea as far as bringing in competition against the businesses that are there and that have invested in our community as far as brick and mortar. I can go along with some trucks, or actually, I don't even want to call them trucks, you know, carts or whatever. Even a small truck, you know, maybe a Chicago-style hot dog type place, or, you know, specialty like that, something that doesn't bring any kind of competition to the rest of our food establishments. Don't need people stopping at a truck like that for a full meal. You know, for a fast snack, something like that, you're walking down the, you know, the Riverwalk or whatever, and you want to stop and just grab a hot dog as you're going along, fine, but serving meals and all that, no, I just can't see it really. Thank you.
Sandy?
I'm ready.
You ready now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like Director Hobson's point about, well, I'd like to underline that in regards to in-house, whether it's the Riverwalk Foundation or actual staff that Bill, and Bill's staff is gonna have to monitor this, either through like a foundation or through his own staff people. And, you know, I don't know how easily they can apply for these, but there probably could be something on the website that we could do something like this to, you know, to get some dates locked up. There are fees. I know they're smaller fees. I think we should have fees for these, and even to the extent of one of the days that would be prominent in my book would be, we're already giving a food truck or two music on Sundays. You know, that could be a higher fee for that day of the week, just because, I mean, they're going to have people there. They have an actual, you know, they have buyers already there. So, you know, something like that could be looked into. And, I want to look at certain dates and days of the week. I always like to say, let's walk before we run. You know, maybe looking at a couple of days a week, potentially a third at some point, but I'd like to see something like that. And, you know, we need to keep this very guarded just to see how it goes the first year. We don't want to overextend and hear from brick and mortar negative comments. Though I will say that, you know, let's face it, if you're looking at spending an hour and a half, you are going to go to the restaurant. If you want something in 5 minutes, you're going to grab something like this. And I just, you know, I mean, let's face it, there's restaurants next to each other all over the place. It's competition, okay? It's a little different. I mean, we are giving them a park with water, with rentals. I mean, we've got people coming down there already. So, I mean, there's an attraction there. And I think they're gonna, these, they're gonna fill out these spots, these timeframes fairly quickly. And, we need to control them. I mean, we just need to keep an eye on it. Then next year we see what next year we, move one way or the other. That's all I have, thank you.
Alderman Devine?
What about a different location? Would people be more comfortable if it was a different location? Friend field, something like that?
I can look at a couple. I would just, if we're gonna do just 2 days a week, I probably wanna keep some consistency and just have it like again, maybe I said, just let's try it out and see if, can we schedule them on a Saturday, Sunday timeframe. I'll put something together, I would think, and bring it back to you. So we do have a process in place potentially with that's, parks use. This was a discussion to expand on an email and really get some better input. So that we're doing the right thing by our businesses and by our community. That's the intention, and as well as to draw visitors down there. If we bring them down there, similar to the boat rental business, if we're bringing them down there, the goal is hopefully we get them to stay and they see something that they like, that they come back down, they try something else the next time that they come down, and not just create that competition and say, all right, we want you to stay just in Miller Point Park, we want you to have a drink here, we want you to eat at this food truck, and then get in your car and go. We're building a Riverwalk to get them to move throughout that whole area, and it's, I would argue that it's working pretty well, and keep building on that. So that's, from a location point of view and from parameters, I think that's where I look to present back to you something along that lines.
Alderman Brown?
Have we talked to the food establishments throughout the community and found out if they would be interested in starting food trucks rather than bringing somebody from the outside?
I have not.
Think about it. Maybe you have somebody on the other side of town that never stopped at one or two of the food establishments down Main Street or wherever, and let's say they go down to Miller Point and there's a food truck from Harry Moy's, I mean, whatever. Could be something that helps build up the businesses throughout the community, and maybe that's the type of food truck we want to see out here instead of bringing somebody from the outside. And again, maybe there won't be any interest on any of these businesses to see that, but that's what I would like to see. I'd like to see our existing businesses in brick and mortar, as far as advertising with these food trucks.
Alderman Stratton?
Just to reply, Alderman Glab, just so you're aware, the Thursday night group has reached out to a lot of the locals to do that servicing for us, and we've not really had much response from them. It's tough for them to staff it, which is why we've had to resort to that as well. So just to give you to know that we have tried to reach out to some of those locals. Again, I think it's a great idea to go back to them and ask again, but we tried to protect that in the Thursday night group as well, to go directly to them. So we've done that as well.
From a residential point of view, one time we had success is like the night, we had, Hub Market was at like the night and sold out of every lobster roll they ever had in the whole county, I think, at that point. But we also had, like, at Shamrock's the Fox, we had Metalwood Grill was another one, and we had Buddy's Buddy's Pizzeria, the first light the night was out there, so.
The problem winds up is as far as getting the help and the investment in the truck and all that. And if it's something that they continuously do, then, you know, some of them might be interested, but to do it once in a great while or whatever, you know, you talk to some of them, when they have the, Park in the Parks or whatever, yeah, they're not interested in, doing that or Fiesta Days, out at the park because of the fact that, besides the cost of having to get the tent and everything else out, for the one or two times, trying to get help becomes a problem. But if there's a possibility that they can have a reoccurring all the time type business like that, they may be wanting to take it and get involved in it.
I appreciate the input and the direction. I feel like I at least have something I can build off of and bring back to you or investigate a little bit more so that if we do this, we do it right. So thank you for the input, I appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. I have no mayor's comments, mayor's report, is there any staff report?
I just wanted to introduce Dan Taylor and Bridget Barong. That was on our consent agenda this evening. But after 30 years of the same renter or lessor out at Hickory Creek Farm, Mickey has decided to retire. And we went through a process with myself and Monty and Pat Gorniak and did some interviews and brought in some groups to see who would kind of take that to the next 30 years. I'm gonna hold you to that. But they really loved the energy, the group that they put together, their intention to really bring more notoriety to that facility. I think so many people drive past that and have no idea that the city owns it. So to have some input in terms of public events and maintain a presence out there, but really open it up and create some more opportunities for our community. I was excited. So thank you for sticking around. I appreciate it. I wanted to introduce them to council as well.
Thank you very much.
Ross, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Troy and his crew, for the Pearl Street Bridge closure. And I say that only because I drive that every day. For that bridge to be out, it was a real pain in my butt, having to travel on the 120, and kudos to you and your staff for Troy getting that thing open back up.
Yeah, quick repairs, so.
Yeah, fantastic.
All right, any others? No? City council comments? Alderman Sandy?
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, okay. Motion to adjourn, second. Alderman Strack?
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Santi?
Yes.
Alderman Strack?
Yes.
Alderman Glad?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Harding?
Yes.
Alderman Devine?
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Put your chair down. They're freaking out.
She like has fun doing it every time.
She yelled at me last time. I didn't know what you were doing. Like, I just left it.